The Building Brands podcast is dedicated to exploring the journeys of industry leaders who have successfully built a brand. Join me, Robert Royer, president of Building Brands Marketing, and an entrepreneur who has successfully scaled multiple brands as we dive deep into the strategies, challenges, and insights that have shaped the success of industry leaders and provide you with the resources you need to do the same. Building Brands Marketing is a full-service marketing agency specializing in crafting customized marketing strategies for service-based businesses with a creative powerhouse to drive real results. Welcome to the Building Brands Podcast. Welcome to the Legal Leaders series of the Building Brands Podcast. Today we have a very special guest. I'm excited to welcome Laura Ramos James, founder and sole owner with Ramos James Law PLLC. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you today. Just kick us off with a simple, easy question. Tell us about Ramos James Law and what makes the firm unique.
Yes, we are an injury law firm that takes cases all over Texas. We are headquartered in Austin, and what makes us unique is that we are qualified to help everyone with their injury cases. We are a values-based law firm, so we practice based on 5 core values.
Yeah, so this is interesting. I'd like to dive a little bit deeper about how this value-based approach, is a philosophy that shapes the way you operate and serve your clients. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, when I started the law firm, I quickly realized that there was a need for making it very clear that everybody is entitled to have, representation that comes from people with integrity, and that, we needed to show compassion. And so I started aligning with other professionals that practice the same way. Again, because of the need for that, there are a lot of, dozens of amazing lawyers and great, competent lawyers. But we aren't always the best at communicating, or representing our clients outside of the courtroom as well, and practicing it that way. So we thought it was something that was needed, and that's kind of how that came about.
Speaking of communication, so your firm is truly bilingual, which is rare, but an important distinction in the legal industry, especially being you practice all across Texas. So how has that distinction impacted the firm's ability to serve clients and grow the brand?
Yeah, it has, I think it has opened doors and allowed us to grow faster than other firms, because clients have come to know that if they hire us to represent them in their case, we're actually going to be communicating with them frequently. Other firms that I've encountered have, for example, 10 attorneys, and none of them speak Spanish, and they will have one paralegal or one legal assistant, and that's the point of contact, and that's the person that's handling the communications. And unfortunately, when they take dozens of cases, it becomes impossible for that person to actually keep their clients informed and return phone calls promptly. So we have been able to do that, and we are now known in the community as a law firm that can offer those services, because not only are the majority of our attorneys Spanish speakers, but also our staff. So we don't have a problem, with capacity to return phone calls or communicate with our clients, give them updates in their native language.
Very cool. So it's hard to believe, given the firm's online reputation, but you just started Ramos James Law 7 years ago. So take us back to the beginning days, the founding days. What inspired you to take that initial leap, and what influences have helped shape the brand identity over that time frame?
Wow, I think I could talk for a while about that. So let's break it up, and you can remind me if I'm forgetting something,
Perfect.
part of the question. But what led me to start the firm, or make the jump, was that so I'm originally from Mexico. Growing up in Mexico, when I was a little girl, I sustained a catastrophic injury, a disfiguring injury that required surgical procedures and counseling, and basically forged the path that I ended up pursuing, which was try to get justice for people and help people get a voice when there was a wrong done to them through no fault of their own. So eventually, I moved to the U.S. and I went to law school here. I wanted to practice somewhere where I could be in front of a jury and I could serve that way in that capacity. And once I was doing that, when I started practicing, I realized I started as an insurance defense lawyer, and I quickly realized I belonged on the other side because I wasn't really aligning with what insurance companies or a defense position is at its core. I actually found myself resonating with victims of traumatic events. And so then I started the journey to become a plaintiff's attorney. I became a plaintiff's attorney here in Austin. And even though I was doing everything seemed perfect. I was a trial lawyer. I was helping injury victims. There was still something missing. And so, thanks to my husband, who asks a lot of questions, but will never tell me what to do. He just kind of could see that I wasn't happy and I wasn't fulfilled. He started asking, questions about what does make you happy, like what actually lights you up, and what are you excited about. And through those questions and conversations, I started realizing that a lot of what was missing to make me feel fulfilled was to have a say in how the practice was led and operated, what types of cases, and how ultimately you provided those services to whom, and the quality, right, of the services didn't need to change if you were representing someone that's, quote unquote, like important in the community or recognized in the community, as opposed to when you're representing someone that comes from humble beginnings. Like everybody needed to have the same representation, and so that kind of is what prompted me to start my own operation.
It's impressive. It's a great story. And for the listeners and viewers, Laura has like a plethora of accolades, from media accolades and things like that have highlighted the firm's growth over the last 7 years. So, I mean, it's definitely evident that you've done really, really well in a short time frame. I know one thing in talking to you previously that has been a big point for you was getting the right team shaped beyond yourself and that's kind of propelled some of the growth over this 7 year time frame. So you've mentioned really finding the right talent that had the right experience and aligned with your core values, and that resonated with me a lot because it's similar to the way that I've shaped the talent at our agency. So I'm curious, how do you approach hiring to ensure a strong cultural fit with this very unique company culture that you built at Ramos James Law?
That is, and I think I talked to you about this before, probably the hardest thing at least I've found, for other business owners and law firm owners. How do you approach it? How I've approached it throughout the years has been the one thing that remains constant is to identify people that that share the passion, right? So to them, this is not just a job. They
Yeah.
don't just want high pay. They have to be driven by something else, and it has to be truly, passion for what we're doing. And of course, we still have bills to pay, so we still have to keep improving and adding benefits and making it a competitive package for those team members that we're trying to to convince to come join us. But sometimes, like as we've grown and the word has spread, people are now trying to come work with us and join our team, and sometimes I've found that everyone or someone can say all the right words, can have an amazing resume, can have great recommendation letters, and it's not until you work with them that you realize what exactly, like, is it really a good fit? Because some people may say, I value work life balance. Well, I do too, by the way, but work life balance to me sometimes may mean working 12-hour days only to have a rest the next day, or things like that, and that means different things to different people. So I found that you don't always know until you work with them. I actually just recently started reading this book. A colleague of mine offered it to me, or gave it to me as a gift. I don't know if you've read it. It's Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
I have not read it, although I've
I'm going
heard
to send it
very
to you.
good things about it.
You have to read it, but one of the things he recommends is working with someone and having them do like a special project or something like that, so that you see their talents and things like that. I like the idea. I think it's a starting point, but I see that it's kind of like longer term. I usually sometimes it takes 6 months, a year to really see if it was a fit both ways, right? Like some people
Hmm.
just are looking for like more structure, like more strict management or things like that. So I think the starting point doesn't change though. There has to be that passion, and whether it's someone who has a background, for example, we've had a former prosecutor, we've had people that have been exposed to have worked in healthcare, and so those definitely are indicators that they would be they have some skills that align with what we do. But is their passion, like are they completely excited and to wake up and help someone, help someone secure money that's going to pay for their medical debt so that they're stress free.
Yeah, well, first of all, several things to unravel there. First of all, I think that's you might be like the fourth or fifth person that's recommended that book to me. So for our listeners and viewers, it sounds like it's a strong recommendation. Buy Back Your Time by Dan. Who's the author again?
Dan Martell.
Dan Martell. That sounds like a great read, and I'm definitely going to have to read it now. Secondly, I really love the level of intent that goes into the interviewing process for you to find that right cultural fit, because not only will that, of course, ensure that the quality of service stays consistent, but also likely it will increase retention over time, because you know early on that they are the right fit and going to continue to be, you know, feel like they're in the right place with the
Hmm.
organization. I know for me, I always look for little red flags
Hmm.
in the interview process of a lack of accountability or a lack of ownership, because that's one of my core values and one of our core values at Building Brands Marketing. And so, I look for the little things like, hey, are they blaming every past, employer that they left because it was the employer's fault? Things of that nature. Or when I ask them about specific projects, group projects and things like that, do they take accountability and ownership for their responsibilities? There's little hacks you can do in that process. Now, let's go a different direction for a
Hmm.
second. Let's come back to the marketing aspect. I know your firm has done really well. You've deployed multiple marketing strategies to continue to acquire new clients over this 7-year time frame. I'm curious, what strategies have been the most effective for establishing brand recognition and acquiring new clients, Laura?
For brand recognition, I would split them up. For brand recognition, I would say in our situation, it has been community involvement, and that I somehow, this theme is, it comes back. It's passion. It has to be something that you love, and I've talked about this before, maybe with you, that some law firm owners have, I see them starting off and they want to go in and do like some Thanksgiving turkey drive. And if it's not a market or a community that you resonate with, that you identify with, that you're trying to connect with, maybe the first year it's fine, and then year two you're not as enthused, and then year three you're dreading it, you're sending someone else, and the next thing people are there from your team representing this drive that isn't as successful. So for us, it's been first identifying what communities I personally align with, because I started this law firm as a solo and had no staff or anyone else. So I would, for example, think about, well, I'm a mom, I'm a Latina, and so I would join groups of other moms, other Latinas, and then I'm a female lawyer, so groups like that. And then through those groups, you learn of different opportunities to connect. Like there's a group for lawyer moms. They hold fall festival. Eventually I ended up sponsoring, and those are things that I'm excited about. I want to bring my husband, I want to bring my kids, I want my staff. I mean, those events and those that brand recognition, I think the message gets amplified because it's authentic.
That's exactly right. You hit the nail on the head. The authenticity in there, right? That's what really will resonate with people, especially with a brand like yourself that is very personalized in its approach, from the value-based approach, but also bilingual, capability, which allows more comfortability. People naturally have a little less anxiety when they're speaking in their native language, or they're speaking with someone, that may also have share ethnicity commonalities with. And I think that um, one of the things that with the what you're describing of finding those personal passions really creates this like alignment between your personal brand and your corporate brand, and allows you to kind of leverage one to help influence the other in your instance. And so I really applaud you for identifying those personal passions and then incorporating them into your firm's marketing plan. For other
Thank you.
business owners, oh yeah, absolutely, Laura. And
Yeah, I was just gonna make a little caveat there because I totally recognize that, some brands don't take that approach, right? They want to
mhm.
distinguish the personal from the corporate identity. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It still needs to be authentic, right? Like it still needs to be like us as a group. Who are we? Like what are we trying to attract? What drives us, etc. But there was a second part to your question. I don't know if you were getting to that because that's another, I think, like hot topic about whether or maybe recently, at least in the legal field, there's a lot of discussion about, is branding even needed? Like, can you just like, why don't you just go and like get some lead gen company? Like there's a voice in the legal field who's sponsoring this belief or this theory that branding isn't even anything that really matters in terms of client acquisition. I 100% disagree with that. I think that brand helps lower your client acquisition cost. It helps you acquire a higher quality of client connections. And then, of course, they get to know you. They talk about you to their loved ones, etc. Whereas lead generation efforts, not, it's great to add those on if you can as well. But I think that you get the most bang for your buck if you couple both those things.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And I think that, the importance is, hey, anybody can get leads, right? But the importance is what you talked about of being able to have a larger pool of selection to select from, being able to reduce that cost per acquisition. And there's lots of nowadays with some of the digital analytics, there are lots of trackable metrics to try to. That was one of the challenges, and this is, I think, where that narrative originally stemmed from, Laura, is it's hard for sometimes firms to quantify the return on investment from their branding efforts, right?
Absolutely.
And one of the quantifiable metrics that's becoming more prevalent in marketing strategies as, digital analytics become more and more advanced is non-branded search queries. So non-branded search queries would be, you can separate those out from the branded search queries, such as personal injury lawyer near me, which would be a non-branded search query. Ramos James Law, personal injury, would be a branded search query. And for the heavy branding campaigns that I'm seeing law firms and service-based business owners in general invest into, typically over time you can see a lift in those branded search inquiries, and that's a really, really, a good gauge on what branding efforts are paying off return on investment wise. And another thing that I'm seeing is direct search inquiries, people actually typing in the website URL name like ramosjameslaw.com, and when they do that, the ramosjames.com, when they perform that website, that direct search, well, you can actually see that traffic amount raise over time, which again is attributable to the branding efforts happening in the community. Lastly, what I will say is, uh, because you can put UTM tracking codes on QR codes where you can track that, and when people scan that exact QR code, when people do a lot of these community events, law firms like yourself that may align with some of your personal passions, you can have QR codes that are unique UTM tracking QR codes from that exact event. So even on your signage at the event, but let's say you hand out some promotional collateral, and you're able to see 6 months, 9 months later how many people scan that QR code to go to your website later on to better track some of the return on investment there. So I think there's new methodologies that are coming available that are allowing firms to better track some of the branding investments.
Yeah, that's excellent. It'll help us dispel the myth that branding doesn't matter.
Exactly, exactly. Well, Laura, it's been an absolute pleasure. What's one thing that any law firm owner or executive could start today that could help start scaling their law firm if they're listening?
I think just waking up and being intentional about identifying what things about their day they're passionate about, what lights them up, what are they excited to work on, and that as the day goes by, just keep an eye towards that, and at the end of the day, think back and what are those things. The rest, will eventually need to go to other homes, to other people, other team members that are better at it or that are more excited about those things. But if you stay focused on your drive and your passion, I think that's the winning formula.
That is a great piece of advice. I'm glad you mentioned that because identifying those strengths and those weaknesses and then figuring out what are the future tasks to delegate will keep you continuing to love your career, keep you continuing to perform at that top level. For me, myself, I love, as you know, in talking with you, marketing strategy, doing high level marketing strategy. I love SEO at its core. That's really what I, get passionate about. I hate some of the back office components to running an agency. The accounting components, no offense, some of the legal components, some of those responsibilities, HR, are not the things I love to do. And so, over time, as I found opportunities to delegate that work to someone else, and today we have an entire back office that handles all that, it's reignited my passion in the industry. Like, it rejuvenates you,
Yeah.
right? Going, hey, now I can spend 80% of my day focusing on the core components that the reason I got into this career field. And I know I see that in you. You're super passionate about your audience that you assist with and what you do for a living. And I really respect that. Any final words for the audience?
Final words. Um, well, that's that's a daunting question to choose the final words, but I would say, actually, I do have final words. They should get in touch with you because you're pretty awesome at what you do. We actually got connected separately, but we now work together. So I 100% recommend people get in touch with you so you can tell them how to find you for something other than the podcast.
Well, thank you, Laura. I really appreciate that. So, where can our listeners and viewers find out more about Ramos James Law online?
Yes, they can Google Ramos James. They can just search Ramos James. We're on all social media platforms, so we'll pop up on LinkedIn, on Meta, all your Facebook, Instagram, TikTok as well. So, or you can search for my name specifically, Laura Ramos James, and I'm in all those as well.
Thank you. Yeah, Ramos James Law, they're crushing it from Austin all the way down to the Valley. They're doing great work and have been for quite some time. Laura, thanks for being on the show today. Really appreciate it.